Welcome back into Wake Up America. I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching us here on Newsmax. I want to welcome back in our all-star political panel on this Friday morning. We start with the host of Stacy on the Right, Stacy Washington. Great to have you on. Political analyst Mark Halperin is with us, and our constitutional attorney Amir Benno here as well. CNN in some hot water once again after rescinding their own reporting. This was their own reporter, by the way. CNN reporter MJ Lee with the inside scoop on Twitter, apparently, yesterday saying, quote, "We are going to have to build everything from scratch." Sources told CNN there simply was no vaccine distribution plan under Trump, leaving Biden and his team having to essentially start from square one. You're not going to believe this, and I'll give him full credit. CNN's Chris Cuomo retracting that reporting live on the air. Take a listen.
Another thing that I don't buy comes out of our reporting. I have two new pieces of reporting. The first one is that people within the administration say they're starting from scratch with a vaccine. No, they're not. You have an infrastructure out there that you're well aware of. It has to be improved. But they shouldn't get any benefit of a low bar here either. You know, there's a lot going on already. Are they going to scrap it, or are they going to build on it and make it better?
No, they're not going to scrap it.
All right, so first of all, Chris Cuomo, good for you. I think he was right to do that, because basically the effort there, Stacy, was to just say, like, no, I mean, President Trump, they didn't even know there was a vaccine. But now that Joe Biden's here, you wait.
Well, so first of all, there was a question in the first press briefing that was to Dr. Fauci, and that was where all of this came from. But there's also this idea. There was a question to Joe Biden also. Joe Biden was asked by a reporter if 100,000 vaccines per day was enough, right, because they were already somewhat at that point. And what Americans don't know is that we're vaccinating about 916,000 people a day. So 100,000 a day is not really a huge jump for the Biden administration, coming off of what the Trump administration is doing. And he snapped back angrily that, you said it couldn't be done, and, it's good enough. Come on, man. And so it was one of those moments where he just, he lost his cool for nothing, because it was a good question. So they're not coming into nothing. They're not walking into a big empty vacuum where nothing has been done. In fact, the Operation Warp Speed was proceeding very well under the leadership of Dr. Birx, the Surgeon General of the United States, Jerome Adams, who coincidentally was let go, black man fired by lover of all black people, Joe Biden. That's not a news story. So this is great reporting by CNN. I just hope to God, let them continue, please, Lord, let them continue to fact check themselves and act like a real news organization. I grew up with James Earl Jones saying, "This is CNN," and then Bobby Batista and Lynn Vaughn would come on, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm there with my cereal, eating it up. They're reporting from the Middle East. It was amazing. Please let us have that CNN back.
I have to. CNN's no longer available at the airports. Thank goodness. We can now just watch SportsCenter before we catch a flight. But I remember in the old days, CNN would be on at the airport, and you'd be like, "Wow, all right, here we go, a network with some integrity," and it was enjoyable. That has definitely shifted. Mark, I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And Joe Biden, by the way, Stacy brought up a point that I just want to address, because I keep hearing him say this. He constantly, and throughout the campaign, he would go, "Oh, come on, man." He would say something to that effect, almost like using these little devices, these little, to try to get him through whatever he's dealing with, because I don't think he's got an answer ready. Your thoughts?
There are some reporters who are intimidated by that. Hopefully this White House press corps won't be. Look, again, I go back to saying liberals are going to have to decide whether what they criticize is now what they want to be. The liberals criticized President Trump for often referring back to the Obama record. And I think President Trump made a mistake in doing that. I think you should be forward-looking as president, not constantly blaming your predecessor. So far, the Biden team, including the president, are still, as in office, referring back to blaming President Trump. There's no doubt President Trump failed on many aspects of dealing with the pandemic, but it is now Joe Biden's responsibility. He ran for the job. He knew what he was getting into. There was something in place, including vaccines that are able now to be distributed. And I think the country would be best served if we stop looking backwards so much and tried to look forward together.
Yeah. Amir, the president signing 27 executive orders, at least. The number keeps going up, undoing much of what the Trump administration accomplished. Your thoughts?
Well, that's a good question. There's dubious constitutionality as to some of these. For instance, his rescission of the permit for the Keystone Pipeline is one of the ones that he did. Congress is the one that really has the power over this sort of international trade, not the executive branch. What he seems to be doing is an end run. Some of it is virtue signaling, obviously viewing everything, restoring or getting rid of the 1776 Commission, getting back to the critical race theory, those sorts of things. He's virtue signaling to the left with these executive orders, and other ones are more substantial and really should go through the legislative process, not through executive orders. And what's also very hypocritical is that when President Trump tried to rescind executive orders that were put in place by President Obama, we heard, well, you can't do that. This needs to go through notice and comment rulemaking. You can't just, with a stroke of a pen and a phone call, rescind that order. And they took all these legal challenges all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Right.
We don't see that happening right now. So there's a double standard. He seems to be doing an end run around Congress with many of these executive orders. And with the ones that he is vested with power to do, he seems to be obviously viewing everything through a lens of whether it's gender, race, sexuality, or environmental equity, and sending these virtue signals to those interest groups.
Stacey, impeachment is still out there right now. Mitch McConnell indicated yesterday that he wants to give the president at least a few weeks to sort of prepare his legal defense. But more and more evidence is, and it's compelling evidence, that is coming out indicating that this event, which happened 16 days ago, January 6th, may have been pre-planned on various social media sites, Facebook being one of them. If that evidence continues to come out, doesn't that negate the charge of incitement of violence?
Yes, so there's one charge here. We have one article of impeachment, and that is that he somehow incited the mob in speaking to them at the rally that day, and they then marched over to the Capitol and breached it, and then committed acts of violence, which result in the deaths of 5 people. The reason that this is impossible is because the ellipse is 55 or 45 minutes walk from the Capitol. So they would have had to have left before he was done speaking. And so with the evidence of pre-planning, which that was coincidentally, I thought that was some amazing timing that Nancy Pelosi rushed those articles through. The one article, she rushes it through. She gets it signed and it's done. He's impeached a second time. Then the very next day, the FBI comes out with information that YouTube and Facebook were used to plan what happened there, and that there were people already there breaching the building, going inside while the president was still speaking. So it wasn't the same group of people who were listening to him that were the ones who breached the Capitol. So, it is a tragedy what happened, but we need to accurately assess who is at fault and hold the people who actually went into the building accountable and leave President Trump alone. This is a witch hunt, a continuation of the witch hunt that started with Russia, the Mueller investigation, and has gone on and on and on. And the proof of that is that she didn't even give him a chance to respond when she brought the article of impeachment because he was still there. And they were arguing on television, no less, about whether or not he should resign, be removed by the 25th Amendment. They were lobbying Pence to do that.
Right.
And they were saying, we'll impeach you. So their bloodlust for him is just kind of amazing. And I don't think he should have to go and defend himself at all. But if he does, he should bring out every bit of this information and make sure that everyone knows that the person they elected, Joe Biden, is an individual who would allow this sham to go on during his presidency when President Trump is now a private citizen.
It will consume the first 100 days of his time in office. Stacy Washington, thank you so much for being with us. Hope you come back and join us on Wake Up America panel. We got to leave it there. Thank you as always. Great stuff. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Rob.